Have you ever seen someone brush off a fever, a pounding headache, or a wave of exhaustion as just one of those days? That is what makes meningococcal disease so unsettling. It can begin like something ordinary, something forgettable, something many families would never imagine could turn serious so quickly. And that is the quiet danger. Sometimes the earliest signs do not look dramatic at all. They look familiar. They look easy to dismiss. A little fatigue, a little nausea, a little confusion. But when a fast-moving infection enters the picture, the cost of waiting can become far greater than people expect. That is why this conversation matters so much, not to create fear, but to create awareness before a small warning becomes a major emergency. The truth is, many people have heard the word meningitis or meningococcal disease without ever learning how prevention actually works in real life. They assume it is too rare to think about, too medical to understand, or too sudden to prepare for. But that is not the full story. There are practical, realistic steps that can lower risk, protect families, and help people act earlier and more wisely. And often, the strongest protection begins long before any symptom appears. In this video, we are going to break it down in a calm, clear, and useful way. You will understand what meningococcal disease is, how it can spread through close contact, why certain people face higher risk, and what preventive actions truly matter in everyday life. We will talk about vaccination, hygiene, shared spaces, early warning signs, and the small habits that can quietly protect the people you love most. Because prevention is not about panic. It is about noticing what others overlook, making thoughtful choices before a crisis begins, and realizing that some of the most powerful health decisions are the ones made early, quietly, and on ordinary days that seem completely normal. The first thing many people do not realize about meningococcal disease is that prevention does not begin in the emergency room. It begins in ordinary daily life, in the choices people make before anything feels urgent, before anyone has a fever, before a family is suddenly forced to move from normal routine into panic. That is why the first and most important protection is vaccination. This is one of the most practical ways to reduce the risk of severe meningococcal disease, especially for children, teenagers, young adults in shared living spaces, and people with certain medical conditions. The common mistake is assuming that if someone had vaccines years ago, they must already be fully protected forever. But prevention is not something to guess about. It is something to check. A parent preparing a teenager for school, college, or a busy social environment may focus on the schedules, clothes, and paperwork, while forgetting the one step that could matter most quietly in the background, confirming whether recommended meningococcal vaccines are up to date. That one small action can create protection long before danger ever appears. The second key point is understanding how this disease can spread. Many people imagine serious infections only spread in dramatic or obvious situations, but meningococcal bacteria can pass through close contact with respiratory and throat secretions. That means the risk can grow in places that feel completely normal: a crowded home, a dorm room, a classroom, a long car ride, a sleepover, a family gathering. The mistake many people make is treating shared drinks, shared utensils, or close face-to-face contact as harmless in all situations. The practical solution is not fear or isolation. It is simple awareness. Avoid sharing bottles, cups, straws, eating utensils, lip products, or anything that regularly touches the mouth, especially in close contact settings or when someone feels unwell. The benefit is that these tiny habits can quietly reduce exposure in the moments where germs often move from one person to another without anyone noticing. A teenager taking a sip from a friend's bottle may not think twice. A parent tasting a child's food with the same spoon may see it as normal. But prevention often lives in these small, forgettable moments. The third point is hygiene, and not in an exaggerated way. Hygiene alone does not replace vaccination, but it supports prevention in a real and useful way. Washing hands regularly, covering coughs and sneezes, disposing of tissues properly, and cleaning frequently touched surfaces may seem basic. Yet basic actions are often the ones families forget when life gets busy. The problem is that people usually become careful only after sickness enters the house. The solution is to make clean habits part of normal life, not crisis behavior. The benefit is that when those habits are already in place, the household is more prepared, more aware, and less likely to let illness spread easily. Think about a multi-generational home where grandparents, parents, and children all share the same kitchen, living room, and bathroom. In that kind of environment, one person's careless cough or one commonly touched surface can affect everyone. A few consistent hygiene habits may sound simple, but simple does not mean unimportant. The fourth point is paying attention to risk settings. Not every environment carries the same level of exposure. Places where people live closely together, sleep near one another, or spend long hours in close contact can create more opportunity for transmission. Dormitories, military barracks, camps, shared apartments, crowded schools, and even certain travel situations can raise the importance of prevention. The mistake is assuming health risk is only about the individual body. In reality, environment matters too. The practical solution is to think ahead whenever life changes. If a child is moving into group housing, if a teenager is entering a high-contact social setting, if a family is traveling, or if someone with a vulnerable immune system is entering a crowded space regularly, that is the time to review protection, not later. The benefit is that prevention becomes proactive rather than reactive. Instead of asking what went wrong after exposure, the family asks what can be done now to lower risk. The fifth point is knowing that some people need extra attention. Many viewers hear health advice and assume it applies the same way to everyone, but that is not always true. Certain people may be at higher risk because of age, medical conditions, immune system issues, or specific exposure patterns. The common mistake is thinking we all live in the same house, so the same plan must fit all of us. But real prevention is more personal than that. The solution is to understand that some individuals may need more careful planning, closer discussion with a healthcare professional, or stronger preventive steps than others. The benefit is smarter protection based on real-life needs instead of assumptions. For example, in one household, a healthy adult may have a different level of concern than a teenager in shared housing or a family member with a condition that affects immunity. A one-size-fits-all mindset can leave gaps where protection is needed most. The sixth point is recognizing symptoms early without becoming overly alarmed. This balance is very important because fear does not help families make good decisions, but ignorance can delay urgent action. Meningococcal disease can begin with symptoms that seem ordinary at first, such as fever, headache, nausea, fatigue, or body aches. That is what makes it so dangerous. The mistake is assuming that familiar symptoms always mean a harmless illness. The solution is to watch for signs that feel more serious, more sudden, or more rapidly worsening, such as severe headache, stiff neck, unusual sleepiness, confusion, vomiting, sensitivity to light, or a rash that appears concerning or spreads quickly. The benefit of this awareness is speed. When people understand the difference between mild discomfort and a possible emergency, they are more likely to seek help in time. Imagine a family late at night. Someone has a fever and says they just want to sleep it off. Normally that might seem reasonable, but if that person becomes harder to wake, more confused, unusually weak, or clearly worse in a short period of time, waiting until morning may be the wrong choice. Prevention at that moment means not delaying. It means taking warning signs seriously. The seventh point is acting quickly around confirmed exposure. Many people do not know this, but when a case is confirmed, close contacts may need rapid medical guidance. The mistake is assuming that if others feel fine, there is nothing to do. The practical solution is to contact healthcare professionals promptly and follow the advice given for those who were in close contact. The benefit is that action after exposure may help protect others before illness develops. This is where calm matters. Families do best when they avoid panic, gather accurate information, and move quickly in an organized way. The final point is perhaps the most emotional and the most human. Prevention often feels unimportant, right up until the moment people wish they had taken it more seriously. That is true for many health decisions. The steps that protect us most are rarely dramatic. They are quiet. They are easy to delay. They do not create urgency on their own. But that does not make them small. Checking vaccine records, teaching children not to share drinks, maintaining basic hygiene, being cautious in close contact environments, recognizing symptoms that escalate quickly, and seeking timely medical help when needed. These are not complicated acts, yet together they form a powerful layer of protection. And that is the heart of this message. Preventing meningococcal disease effectively is not about living in fear. It is about respecting how quickly some illnesses can move, understanding that ordinary habits shape extraordinary outcomes, and realizing that a few thoughtful actions taken early can help protect the people you care about most. Before we move on, pause for a second and ask yourself something very simple. If someone in your home suddenly developed a high fever, a severe headache, unusual sleepiness, or a rash that did not look right, would you recognize it as a moment to act fast, or would you assume it could wait until tomorrow? This is where many people get caught off guard, not because they do not care, but because the earliest signs can look so ordinary that urgency never arrives until the illness has already moved further than anyone expected. And that is exactly why prevention matters so much more than people think. It is not only about vaccines, hygiene, or avoiding shared drinks. It is also about being mentally prepared to respond without delay when something feels seriously wrong. So here is the most important shift in mindset. Do not wait for a health situation to become dramatic before you take it seriously. Sometimes the safest families are not the ones who know every medical detail. They are the ones who pay attention early, stay calm, and act when the warning signs begin to change. If you remember only a few things from this video, remember these clearly. First, meningococcal disease may be rare, but it can become severe very quickly, which means prevention should never be treated casually. Second, one of the strongest protective steps is staying up to date on recommended vaccination, especially for children, teens, young adults in close contact settings, and people with higher risk health conditions. Third, simple habits still matter more than most people realize. Do not share drinks or utensils, practice good cough and hand hygiene, and take sudden, worsening symptoms seriously instead of brushing them aside. Prevention is not about fear. It is about noticing the small things before they become big things. It is about making quiet decisions early while life still feels normal. And if this message gave you a clearer picture of what effective prevention really looks like, save this video and share it with someone who cares for children, teenagers, or older loved ones. And tell me in the comments, before watching this, did you think prevention was mostly about treatment after symptoms begin? Or did you already know that the most powerful protection often starts long before anyone feels sick?